Hello, welcome back to Planet 40k. In today's video we're going to be going through some of the noteworthy buffs and noteworthy nerfs coming from that article that was released earlier this week from the Warhammer community. Now of course it's not long until the chapter approved book comes out, and in our previous video we went through some of those changes, but I wanted to go through what it actually means for our Necron codex today. So we're going to go through some noteworthy buffs and noteworthy nerfs. So starting off with the noteworthy buffs. The first one is Imhotep the Stormlord. Now, not a popular choice because he's from the Celtic dynasty and they're not the most competitive dynasty that we've currently got. However, now he's got a slight buff because of his grand strategist ability, which is if your army is battleforged, you receive 2 additional command points if you select this model as your warlord. Now, as we know from the article, you're not going to be getting as many command points at the start of the battle, so if you're playing a Strike Force game, you're only going to be getting 6 command points as opposed to 12, and if you want any warlord traits or relics, they're going to cost you a command point before the game even begins. So gaining 2 additional command points just by taking Imhotep the Stormlord could be a little bit of a bonus. Now further to add, he's got an ability called Pharaon, which is effectively the My Will Be Done ability. You can do it twice in a given turn. Now why this is a bonus to Imhotep the Stormlord, because if you wanted to take a standard overlord on foot, that standard overlord could also be given the Pharaon ability if you take the stratagem Hand of the Pharaon, but it costs you 2 command points, and as already mentioned, command points are now very precious with this new chapter approved. So the fact that Imhotep the Stormlord has this built in to his profile is going to give him a bonus. Then furthermore, his warlord trait. Now of course you do have to pay a command point to gain a warlord trait, but the Celtic dynasty warlord trait, Hyperlogical Strategist, every time you spend a command point on a 5+, you gain that command point back. Again, this is adding to keeping hold of your CP, where some other factions won't have the ability to be able to retain CP, and also they're going to be starting the game with quite a low amount of CP to begin with. Now of course you could put this warlord trait on a command barge, for example. You don't need to take Imhotep the Stormlord, but it does have that warlord trait built in, and if you're taking the Celtic dynasty, he's not a bad option to go with. Now another named character that's going to be getting a huge buff in this chapter approved book is Trezin the Infinite. Now his ability is Ancient Collector, so if this model is included in your army, the Dynastic Heirloom stratagem will cost 1 fewer command points to use the first time you use it. So the first time you're using the Dynastic Heirloom stratagem, it's not going to cost any command points, it's going to be 0 command points, so effectively you can gain free relic if you take Trezin the Infinite. Whereas with the new chapter approved book, as you know, relics now cost command points. So you might be thinking, but why would I want Trezin the Infinite? He can't take his own warlord trait, you can't give him any relics. But the bonus here is the fact that if you're taking an overlord on foot, it's almost the same model. We've still got the My Will Be Done ability, he's still got the Relentless March ability. He's also got a melee weapon which is D3 damage as well. It's like a bit of a mini war scythe, except the AP isn't as strong. But what you need to remember is now that we're paying for warlord traits and relics, the overlord option isn't as good as it used to be. That was one of the main reasons for taking an overlord model, because they were so much more customizable with the relics and warlord traits. Now of course an overlord model still has the advantage of being able to customize the actual war gear, whereas Trezin the Infinite doesn't. However, saving on a command point for a relic in your army isn't a bad way of going. Next of course is the Silent King. This one's going to be an absolute beast now. Now of course to take him you're using a Supreme Command detachment, and of course he refunded your command points if you took a brigade, battalion or a patrol detachment. But if you're taking the Silent King and you've got a Battleforged army, then you're going to be receiving 3 additional command points if he's your warlord, and of course he will be your warlord because of the Royal Court ability in the actual codex. So gaining 3 additional command points could actually be huge. Then furthermore, he again, just like Imhotep the Stormlord, has got the Pharaon ability, the Pharaon keyword. So this has an advantage over your standard overlord models and your Catacomb Command Barge as well, because he's got that built-in My Will Be Done. You're not going to need to spend 2 additional command points to take Hand of the Pharaon for your standard overlord or Catacomb Command Barge models. So that in itself could potentially be a 5-point swing with command points. Now as for some noteworthy nerfs, this one's a little bit unfortunate because I've only just started playing the Nephilim dynasty in this edition, and I really like the fact that they've got that translocation crypt stratagem to be able to deep strike any of your units unless they're vehicles or monsters. Now of course you can say this about any stratagem, they're going to have a nerf, but this one was the main reason for me to why I would take the Nephilim dynasty. Being able to deep strike for 1 command point per unit, this was really effective for your shadow operation secondary objectives in the previous chapter approved book. Now of course this may all change in the new book, but in the current format, secondary objectives, behind enemy line, engage on all fronts, teleport homers, raise the banners, all those kind of secondaries, they're a lot easier to achieve when you're using the Nephilim dynasty stratagem. Now is going to be a little bit more pricier, especially if you're playing those smaller incursion games where you're starting on 3 command points. If you're taking a relic or a warlord trait, you could potentially be starting on one command point. Then of course you've still got to get the translocation crypt stratagem for some of your units. So there's a huge nerf in my opinion for the Nephilic dynasty. Then moving on, of course we've already mentioned earlier in this video, Overlord models. That Hand of the Pharaoh stratagem now does look quite pricey at 2 command points. Again, if you're taking a Warlord trait, you're taking a relic. We're already getting half the amount of command points as it is. So the Hand of the Pharaoh stratagem could be quite a pricey one. The next nerf on my list, a little bit of a common tactic that people use, which was taking the Night Scythe and then putting a unit of Lich Guard models into strategic reserves. And what we used to use is the Prismatic Dimensional Breach for a command point to be bringing out the models out of the Night Scythe after it's actually moved that turn. Now the problem with this now is the fact that strategic reserves for a full unit of Lich Guard is going to be costing us 2 command points because a unit of 10 has a power level of 14. So 2 command points pre-game, then another command point for the Prismatic Dimensional Breach stratagem. That's a total of 3 command points just for that tactic alone. That's going to be quite difficult to pull off nowadays, especially in those smaller games. Now yes, we do get command points as the game progresses, but this one needs to be done before the game starts because you spend your strategic reserve points pre-game of course, so you're going to be finding that using this tactic isn't going to be as common as it used to be. Now don't get me wrong, I don't know exactly what's in the new book. Potentially the strategic reserve rules have been changed, maybe they're cheaper now, I'm not entirely sure. Until we've got the actual book in our hands, we don't know, but in the current format, it would cost us 2 command points just to put the Lich Guard models into strategic reserves. Then the final noteworthy nerf that I wanted to mention today is the Canoptic Reanimator. Now I personally hate this model anyway, I'm not going to lie. Most of you that have been following this channel for a while now know that I don't like the Canoptic Reanimator, but most of the arguments for the Canoptic Reanimator are for the stratagem, the reanimation prioritization. It's 2 command points. It effectively allows you to change which unit that you'll have benefiting from that nanoscale reanimation beam. Now it's 2 command points again. Anything that's 2 command points now does seem really pricey. I never really took the Canoptic Reanimators anyway, but for those of you that do, let me know in the comments, are you still going to be using this stratagem? Because for me, it's a little bit too pricey now that we're getting much fewer command points. So there's some buffs and nerfs that I've taken from the article that relate to our Necron Codex. Now I'm not sure what the exact date that this chapter of Prue Book is coming out, but when it does come out, we're going to get exactly what the point changes are, the mission changes are, and once we've got that book, we'll probably make a video and go through everything bit by bit, a deep dive, and how it relates to the Necron Codex. But yeah, as for this article that was released this week, if you've got any other noteworthy buffs or noteworthy nerfs that have been missed in this video, let me know down in the comments below so we can have a chat about them, discuss them, share our thoughts and opinions. But yeah, so far so good in terms of the changes for me. I know a lot of you in the comments don't like the changes. I personally do like the changes. I think they're much better for the game. There's going to be a lot less alpha strikes, demolishing our army before we even get a chance to move them. We don't really rely too heavily on stratagems, and the Warlord traits aren't that great anyway. Okay, in terms of relics, we've got the Veil of Darkness relic. That one will have to cost us a command point to get it in, but other than that, I think we're okay. So guys, just a short video for you today, just to follow up from our previous video. Remember to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Check out the Discord if you haven't. Other than that, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.